The Grand Assembly Hall of Nexara Prime was the largest structure ever built by intelligent life. Its ceiling rose so high that clouds formed inside on humid days. Thousands of seats filled the chamber in rising tiers, each section reserved for a different species of the Galactic Council. At the very top sat the oldest and most powerful civilizations. At the very bottom, in seats that were too small and poorly lit, sat the humans. Ambassador Yoon Hana stood at the speaking platform in the center of the hall. She was a small woman with gray hair and calm eyes. She had spent 30 years serving Earth in alien courts. She had learned to smile when they insulted her. She had learned to bow when they demanded it. But today, she was not smiling. "Honored members of the council," she said, her voice steady. "I come before you with an urgent request. 3 days ago, our deep space sensors detected a cluster of rogue asteroids moving toward Earth's outer colonies. 7 million humans live in the path of this threat. We have calculated the impact. Without intervention, Colony Vega 4 will be destroyed in 60 days. The hall was quiet. Thousands of alien eyes watched her. Hana continued. "We ask for access to gravitational displacement technology. This is standard equipment for all council members. It can redirect the asteroids safely. We are not asking for a gift. We will pay any price the council names. We only ask for the chance to save our people." She stopped speaking and waited. The silence stretched on. High Arbiter Veth rose from his throne at the top of the chamber. He was tall and thin, with silver skin and 4 arms. His species, the Villani, had ruled the council for 10,000 years. He looked down at Hana the way a person might look at an insect. "Ambassador Yoon," he said slowly, "your request has been heard. However, the council cannot grant access to gravitational displacement technology to a species that has not proven itself ready." Hana kept her face still. "May I ask what proof the council requires?" Veth smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Humans have been members of the galactic community for only 60 years. You are children. You fight among yourselves. You pollute your own world. You have not yet shown the wisdom to handle advanced technology." A sound rippled through the chamber. It was laughter. Soft at first, then louder. Thousands of aliens laughing at the human ambassador. Hana did not move. "High Arbiter, 7 million lives depend on this decision. I ask the council to reconsider." Hana did not move. "I ask the council to reconsider." Before Veth could respond, another figure stood up. Ambassador Kelos, of the Mora Dominion, was a heavy creature with dark red scales and small yellow eyes. He was known throughout the galaxy for his hatred of humans. No one knew why he hated them so much. Perhaps he simply enjoyed having someone to look down upon. "If I may speak," Kelos said, his voice like grinding stones. Veth nodded. "The floor recognizes Ambassador Kelos." Kelos walked slowly down the steps toward the center platform. He stopped a few meters from Hana and looked at her with open disgust. "I find it amusing," he said, "that the humans come here begging for help. Do they not remember their place? Do they not understand what they are?" He turned to face the assembly. "Let me remind everyone. Humans crawled out of mud only a few thousand years ago. While our ancestors built empires across the stars, humans were killing each other with sharp sticks. They discovered space travel only 2 centuries ago. They are not our equals. They are not even close." The laughter grew louder. Some aliens stomped their feet. Others made clicking sounds of approval. Kelos raised his hand, and a holographic display appeared above the platform. It showed Earth, a small blue marble floating in the darkness of space. "Look at this," Kelos said. "This is their homeworld, a tiny, fragile thing. And look at what they have done to it." The image changed. Now it showed Earth's history. Wars, bombs, cities burning, forests dying, oceans filled with waste. This is humanity. Kelos said. A species that cannot even take care of its own planet. And they want us to give them our technology? Should we hand a child a loaded weapon? The chamber erupted in laughter and applause. Kelos smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Hana stood completely still. Her hands were behind her back, and no one could see that they were shaking. Ambassador Kelos, she said quietly, I ask that your comments be removed from the official record. They are not relevant to our request. Kelos laughed. Removed? Why? I have spoken only the truth. Are you ashamed of your own history, Ambassador? Are you ashamed of what you are? Why? Hana turned to High Arbiter Veth. High Arbiter, I formally request that these insults be stricken from the record. Veth looked down at her with cold eyes. Request denied. Ambassador Kelos has spoken within his rights. The record will stand. More laughter. More applause. The sound filled the massive chamber like a wave. Hana looked around the room. She saw thousands of faces looking back at her. Some were laughing. Some were sneering. A few looked uncomfortable. But none of them spoke in her defense. Not one. She had spent 30 years building relationships with these species. She had shared meals with them. She had attended their ceremonies. She had believed that, in time, they would accept humanity as equals. She understood now that she had been wrong. Very well, she said softly. I have nothing more to say. She walked back to the human section, where her small delegation waited. Their faces were pale with shock and anger. A young aide looked like he wanted to cry. Hana sat down and folded her hands in her lap. She did not look at the aliens anymore. She stared straight ahead and waited for the session to end. When it finally did, she walked in silence to her quarters on the station. She closed the door behind her and stood alone in the darkness for a long moment. Then she activated her secure communication device. It connected to a channel that reached across thousands of light years to Earth. To a man who was waiting for her call. Admiral Kang Taeho's face appeared on the screen. He was an older man, with sharp features and tired eyes. He had led humanity's fleet for 20 years. He had fought in the Void War, defending Council territory against invaders, losing good soldiers for allies who never thanked him. Ambassador, he said. I watched the broadcast. The whole planet watched. Hana nodded slowly. I know. She took a deep breath. They have made their choice, Admiral. 60 years of service. 60 years of patience. And this is how they repay us. The Admiral's expression did not change. But something dark moved behind his eyes. What are your orders, Ambassador? Hana looked at the screen. Her voice was steady when she spoke. Inform the General Assembly. Begin the withdrawal protocols. And Admiral? Yes? It is time to show them who we really are. The communication ended. Hana sat in the darkness of her room, alone, surrounded by the silence of alien space. Outside her window, the lights of Nexera Prime glittered like cold stars. Tomorrow, everything would change. The news spread across Earth like fire. Every screen, every device, every public display showed the same footage. Ambassador Yoon Hana, standing alone in that massive chamber. Kelos calling humans upright vermin. The laughter of thousands of aliens echoing through the hall. People watched in their homes, in their offices, in the streets. They watched in the colonies, on Mars, on Europa, on the stations orbiting distant stars. And as they watched, something changed inside them. The shame they had been taught to feel slowly transformed into something else. Something harder. Something colder. 48 hours after the council session, the leaders of Earth gathered in Seoul. The unified command center was buried deep underground, protected by layers of steel and stone. It was built during the dark years, when humanity still feared invasion. Now it served as the meeting place for the most important decision in human history. Admiral Kang Tae-ho stood at the head of the long table. Around him sat presidents, prime ministers, generals, and scientists from every nation on Earth. The room was silent. On the wall behind him, the footage from Nexara Prime played on a loop. "You have all seen what happened," the Admiral said. His voice was calm, but there was steel beneath the surface. "For 60 years, humanity has served the Galactic Council. We gave them our resources. We shared our technology patents. We sent our soldiers to die in their wars. And in return, they gave us nothing but contempt." He paused, letting the words settle. "When the Void War came, who answered the call? We did. Human ships, human soldiers, human blood. We lost 40,000 men and women defending Council territory. And when the war ended, did they thank us? Did they share the victory? No. They gave the credit to themselves and sent us back to our little corner of space." General Choi Woo-jin stood up. He was an old man with a scarred face and cold eyes. He had commanded human forces in the Void War. He had watched his friends die for allies who looked at them like insects. "I have prepared a recommendation," the general said. He activated a display showing a long list of documents. "These are the treaties that bind Earth to the Galactic Council. 142 agreements. Trade deals. Military alliances. Technology sharing. Resource exchanges." He looked around the room. "My recommendation is simple. We end all of them. Tonight. No negotiation. No warning. We cut every tie and close every door." The room stirred. A few leaders looked nervous. One of them, a woman from the European Federation, raised her hand. "General, if we do this, we will have no allies. We will be alone in a hostile galaxy." General Choi smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "Madam President, we have always been alone. The Council was never our ally. They were our masters, and we were their servants. It is time to end that relationship." Another voice spoke up. It belonged to Dr. Lee Sue, the chief scientist of Earth's Advanced Research Division. She was a young woman with sharp eyes and a quiet manner. She rarely spoke in these meetings. But when she did, people listened. "There is something the Council does not know," she said. "Something we have kept hidden for decades." She stood and activated her own display. Complex diagrams appeared, showing technologies that looked nothing like Council designs. 60 years ago, when we first made contact with the galaxy, we made a choice. We saw how the Council treated younger species. We saw how they controlled technology, how they kept others dependent on them. So, we decided to hide our true capabilities. She pointed at the diagrams. "What you see here is our real technology. Weapons, systems, propulsion drives, energy generation. All of it developed in secret. All of it far beyond what the Council believes we possess." The room was completely silent. "They think we are primitive," Dr. Lee continued. "They think we crawled out of mud and stumbled into space by accident. They have no idea what we are capable of. And that is exactly what we wanted." Admiral Kang nodded slowly. "For 60 years, we played the role of the weak newcomer. We let them underestimate us. We let them mock us. But we were never weak. We were waiting." He turned to face the assembly. "The waiting is over." The vote was unanimous. Every leader, from every nation, agreed. Earth would withdraw from all treaties with the Galactic Council. The decision was made in less than an hour. That night, Admiral Kang recorded a message. He sat in front of a simple gray wall, wearing his formal uniform. His face was expressionless, his voice flat and cold. "To the Galactic Council and all member species. This is Admiral Kang Tae-ho, Supreme Commander of Earth's United Fleet. I speak on behalf of humanity. Effective immediately, Earth withdraws from all treaties, agreements, and alliances with the Galactic Council. This includes all trade agreements, military pacts, and diplomatic arrangements. All 142 documents are hereby terminated. Human space is now closed. Our borders are sealed. Any vessel entering human territory without explicit authorization will be considered hostile and will be dealt with accordingly. This is not a request for negotiation. This is not an invitation for dialogue. This is a notification. We ask nothing from you. We expect nothing from you. We owe you nothing. You had 60 years to treat us as equals. You chose instead to treat us as servants and fools. That choice has consequences. Do not contact us. Do not approach our space. Do not test our resolve. This message will not be repeated. The transmission ended. It was broadcast on every frequency, in every language, to every corner of the galaxy. Within hours, the withdrawal began. Human ambassadors packed their belongings and boarded ships. Human scientists shut down their laboratories on Council worlds. Human engineers abandoned their projects, leaving equipment and half-finished work behind. Human traders closed their shops and left without a word. Every human in Council space left. All of them. At the same time. On Nexera Prime, Ambassador Kelos was eating dinner when the message arrived. He laughed when he heard it. "The little creatures are throwing a tantrum," he said to his aides. "They will come crawling back within a week." High Arbiter Veth was not laughing. He sat alone in his chambers, watching the human ships depart. There were thousands of them, all moving in perfect formation, all heading toward the same point in space. "Contact our intelligence division," he said to his assistant. "I want to know everything about human military capabilities." Everything. His assistant hesitated. "High Arbiter, our files on human technology are limited. They never shared much with us, and we never thought it was important to investigate." Veth felt something cold settle in his stomach. For the first time in his long life, he felt a small seed of doubt. "Find out," he said quietly. "Find out now." But it was already too late. The humans were gone. Their space was closed. And somewhere in the darkness between the stars, something was waiting. Something the Council had never imagined. On Earth, Admiral Kang stood in the command center, watching the last human ships cross back into friendly space. General Choi stood beside him. "It is done," the general said. The admiral shook his head slowly. "No, old friend. For the first time in 60 years, we are free." Outside, the sun was rising over Seoul. A new day was beginning, and with it, a new era for humanity. 1 week passed. Then, too, the Galactic Council waited for the humans to return. They waited for apologies, for requests, for desperate pleas to restore the treaties. None came. The humans had vanished into their own space, and the silence was absolute. Ambassador Kelos was still confident. "They cannot survive alone," he told anyone who would listen. "They need our technology. They need our protection. Give them a month, and they will come begging." But strange things were beginning to happen. On the trading world of Nexera 7, merchants discovered that half their goods were missing from the markets. Medical supplies, computer processors, quantum stabilizers, engine components, all gone. For decades, humans had been selling these items at prices far below what other species charged. No one had thought much about it. Now, with the humans gone, there was nothing to replace them. Prices began to rise. What cost 10 credits yesterday now cost 100. What cost 100 now cost 1,000. Merchants who had laughed at humans a week ago were now screaming at their suppliers, demanding answers. The answers were always the same. The humans made those. We do not know how. We cannot make more. On the military stations of the Talun Empire, engineers discovered a different problem. 30% of the Council's warships had been maintained by human technicians. These ships were now failing. Power systems shut down without warning. Weapons refused to fire. Navigation computers produced errors. Warlord Drex, commander of the Talun military, demanded explanations. His engineers gave him the truth. The humans built failsafes into their work. The chief engineer said nervously, "Hidden systems that require human authorization to maintain. Without their codes, we cannot repair the ships. If we try to bypass the failsafes, the systems destroy themselves." Drex stared at the engineer. "Are you telling me that humans sabotaged our fleet?" "No, Warlord. They simply made sure that only they could maintain what they built. It was probably a precaution. In case we ever turned against them." Drex was silent for a long moment. Then he swept his massive arm across his desk, sending equipment crashing to the floor. "Find a solution," he growled. But there was no solution. The humans had been careful. Very careful. On Nexara Prime, High Arbiter Veth called an emergency session of the Council. The great chamber, that had echoed with laughter 2 weeks ago, was now filled with worried faces. "We must discuss the human situation," Veth said. "It seems their departure has caused some difficulties." Some difficulties. It was the greatest understatement in galactic history. Ambassador Kellos rose to speak. "This is simple. We send a fleet to human space and demand they return. They are weak. They have no allies. They will submit. Add in two, are. They." Several voices murmured in agreement. But then, a new figure stood up. It was a Vellani intelligence officer, his silver face pale with fear. "High Arbiter, I must report something." Veth nodded. "Speak." 3 days ago, we sent scout ships to observe human space. 12 vessels in total, equipped with our best stealth technology. They were ordered to watch from a safe distance and report on human military activity. He paused. His hands were shaking. None of them returned. We lost contact the moment they crossed into human territory. No distress signals. No debris. No trace. They simply vanished. The chamber went silent. "Perhaps they were captured," Kellos said, but his voice was less confident now. The intelligence officer shook his head. "No, Ambassador. Our sensors detected massive energy signatures at the border. Something destroyed those ships in seconds. We do not know what it was." Veth leaned forward. "What do our files say about human weapons capabilities?" The officer looked down. "Our files are incomplete, High Arbiter. We never considered humans a military threat. We never studied them seriously." Veth felt the cold feeling in his stomach grow stronger. "We know they fought well in the Void War. We know their soldiers are brave and disciplined. But their technology always seemed inferior to ours. Their ships were slower. Their weapons were weaker. At least, that is what we believed. And now?" The officer hesitated. "Now I am not certain what to believe." The session dissolved into argument. Some demanded immediate military action. Others called for diplomatic outreach. A few suggested simply waiting and hoping the situation would resolve itself. But one voice cut through the noise. It belonged to an old Talon senator, a veteran of countless wars. "Has anyone considered," he said slowly, "that we might have been wrong about the humans?" The chamber fell silent. "We mocked them," the senator continued. "We called them primitive. We laughed at their history and their struggles. But what if they were hiding their true strength? What if they let us believe they were weak because it served their purposes?" Kellos snorted. "Impossible. Humans are not capable of such long-term planning. They are simple creatures." The old senator smiled sadly. "Ambassador, simple creatures do not survive in a hostile galaxy for 60 years. Simple creatures do not supply 30% of our military maintenance. Simple creatures do not vanish 12 stealth ships without a trace." He shook his head. "We have made a terrible mistake." 2 days later, Warlord Drex made a decision. He was tired of waiting. He was tired of uncertainty. He would take a fleet to human space, demand their surrender, and end this nonsense once and for all. He assembled 200 of his best ships. It was the largest military force the Talun Empire had deployed in 50 years. He stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching his armada gather in formation. "Set course for human space," he commanded. "We will show these creatures the meaning of power." His officers obeyed. The fleet moved forward, engines burning bright against the darkness of space. Drex smiled. This would be easy. This would be quick. The humans would learn their place. Far ahead, at the edge of human territory, a single ship floated in the darkness. It was small and plain, with no visible weapons, but it was watching. It had been watching since the moment the humans withdrew. On board, Captain Park J monitored his sensors. He saw the Talun fleet approaching. 200 warships, bristling with weapons, coming to threaten his people. He opened a communication channel. "Admiral Kang, this is the forward observation post. The Talun fleet is approaching our border. 200 vessels. Heavy armament. They will arrive in 6 hours." On the other end of the channel, Admiral Kang's voice was calm. "Understood, Captain. Activate the defense grid." "And Captain?" "Yes, Admiral? Make sure they have a good view. I want them to see what happens next." Captain J smiled grimly. "Yes, sir." He ended the communication and looked out at the stars. Somewhere, out there, 200 enemy ships were flying toward their doom. They did not know it yet. But they would learn. Everyone would learn. The Talun Warfleet crossed the border into human space at exactly midnight, Galactic Standard Time. 200 ships moved in perfect formation, their weapons charged and ready. Warlord Drex stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars slide past. "Open a channel to human command," he ordered. "Wide broadcast. I want every human to hear this." His communications officer obeyed. A moment later, the channel was open. "Humans," Drex announced, his voice booming through the transmission. "This is Warlord Drex of the Talun Empire. You have made a foolish mistake. You have insulted the Galactic Council. You have closed your borders against your betters. This will not be tolerated." He paused, enjoying the moment. "You have 1 hour to surrender. Your leaders will present themselves to me personally. You will reopen all treaties. You will accept corrective supervision by the Council. If you refuse, we will destroy your colonies, one by one, until you comply." He smiled. "This is not a negotiation. This is a command. You have 1 hour." The transmission ended. Drex turned to his officers with satisfaction. "Now we wait. They will break. They always do." But deep inside human space, no one was breaking. Captain Park J watched the enemy fleet from his observation post. His small ship was hidden in the shadow of an asteroid, invisible to Talun's sensors. He could see everything. On his screens, 200 red dots, moving slowly toward the heart of human territory. His communication device buzzed. Admiral Kang's face appeared. "Captain, what is their status?" "They are holding position just inside the border, Admiral. The Warlord has issued an ultimatum. 1 hour to surrender." The Admiral nodded slowly. "I see. And how far are they from the primary defensive point?" Jay checked his sensors. 20,000 kilometers, sir. "Perfect. Activate Project Voidlight." Jay's heart beat faster. He had heard rumors about Project Voidlight. Everyone in the fleet had. But no one knew exactly what it was. No one, except the highest commanders and the scientists who built it. "Understood, Admiral. Activating now." He entered the code into his console. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, far away, something stirred in the darkness of space. On the bridge of his flagship, Warlord Drex was growing impatient. 30 minutes had passed, and the humans had not responded. No surrender. No communication. Nothing. "Where is their fleet?" he demanded. Surely they will send ships to defend their territory. His sensors officer looked confused. Warlord, I detect no human ships in the area. Our scans show empty space. Drex frowned. Impossible. They must have hidden their vessels somewhere. Expand the search. The officer obeyed, but the result was the same. Empty space, no ships, no stations, nothing. Then his sensors officer made a strange sound. A small, frightened noise. Warlord. There is something on the sensors. I do not know what it is. Drex walked to the sensor station. On the screen, a point of light was growing. Not a ship. Not a station. Something else. An energy signature, unlike anything in their databases. What is that? Drex asked. No one answered. No one knew. The point of light grew brighter. And brighter. And brighter. Aboard the human flagship Horizon, Admiral Kang stood in the command center, surrounded by screens showing the Talon fleet. Dr. Lee Sua stood beside him, her fingers moving across a control panel. Void light is at full power, she reported. The spatial tear is forming. 10 seconds to activation. The Admiral watched the screens. He felt no joy, no satisfaction, only a cold sense of duty. Send them the message, he said quietly. His communications officer opened a channel to the Talon fleet. The Admiral spoke 3 words. You were warned. In space, the universe bent. There was no explosion. No flash of light. No dramatic battle. Instead, something far stranger happened. The fabric of space itself folded like paper. A circle of impossible darkness appeared around the Talon fleet, growing wider by the second. On the bridge of his flagship, Warlord Drex felt his stomach drop. Through the viewports, he saw the stars change. The familiar constellations twisted and stretched, replaced by alien patterns he did not recognize. What is happening? He shouted. His navigation officer was crying, actual tears running down his face. Warlord, we have been moved. Transported. Our coordinates show that we are now in the Outer Rim. Sector 770. Drex stared at him. That is impossible. The Outer Rim is 40,000 light years from here. Yes, Warlord. It is. The bridge went silent. Everyone understood what had happened. The humans had not destroyed them. They had done something far worse. They had moved the entire fleet to the edge of the galaxy. At normal speeds, it would take 200 years to return. They were alive, they were unharmed, and they were utterly helpless. Back in human space, Admiral Kang watched the screens. Where 200 enemy ships had been, there was now only empty space. Void light performed as expected. Dr. Lee reported. The spatial displacement was successful. The Talon fleet has been relocated to the Outer Rim. All vessels intact. The Admiral nodded. Good. We are not murderers. We do not need to be. He turned to his communications officer. Open a channel. All frequencies. I want every species in the galaxy to hear this. The channel opened. The Admiral spoke. This is Admiral Kang Taeho of Earth's United Fleet. 12 hours ago, the Talon Empire sent 200 warships into human space with demands for surrender. They expected to find a weak and frightened species. They were wrong. The Talon fleet has not been destroyed. We are not barbarians. Instead, they have been transported to the outer rim of the galaxy, approximately 40,000 light-years from their home. They are alive and unharmed. But they will not threaten us again. This is a demonstration of our capabilities, not a display of aggression. We have no desire for war. We have no interest in conquest. We ask only to be left in peace, but let there be no misunderstanding. Any species that threatens human territory will face the same fate. Any fleet that crosses our borders with hostile intent will simply cease to be a threat. Not through death. Through distance. Humanity is not your servant. Humanity is not your resource. Humanity is not your target. We are your equals. We have always been your equals. The only difference is that now you know it. Do not contact us with demands. Do not approach us with threats. If you wish to speak with us, do so with respect. Nothing less will be tolerated. This message will not be repeated. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched their screens in stunned silence. The species they had mocked, the species they had laughed at, the species they had treated as primitive children. That species had just done something that the greatest civilizations in the galaxy could not do. They had bent space itself. In the outer rim, Warlord Drex stood alone on the bridge of his flagship. His crew had fled to other parts of the ship, unable to face him. Through the viewport, he saw stars he did not recognize, a galaxy he might never return to. He thought about all the things he had said about humans, all the jokes, all the insults, all the confident claims that they were nothing more than primitive animals. He understood now how wrong he had been, how terribly, completely wrong. The humans had won. Not with violence, not with anger, but with power so great that violence was unnecessary. And somewhere far away, in the dark space between the stars, a small blue planet continued to turn. Its people looked up at the sky and knew, for the first time, that they had nothing left to fear. 3 months passed. The galaxy was not the same. The Talun Empire, once proud and powerful, collapsed without its military leader. Warlord Drex and his 200 ships were still drifting somewhere in the outer rim, alive but irrelevant. Without their strongest fleet, the Empire's enemies sensed weakness. Old rivals attacked. Border territories rebelled. Within weeks, the great Talun Empire had fractured into a dozen smaller states, each fighting for survival. The Mora Dominion faced its own crisis. Ambassador Kelos, the one who had called humans upright vermin, became the most hated figure in his own government. His words had provoked the humans. His arrogance had started the chain of events that led to disaster. His people demanded justice. They stripped him of his title. They took his wealth. They sent him into exile, on a remote colony, at the edge of Mora space. His final broadcast was an apology to Earth, delivered in a trembling voice from a small, dirty room. "I was wrong," he said. "I mocked a great people. I treated them as lesser beings. I see now that I was the lesser one. I am sorry." The apology reached Earth. No one acknowledged it. Across the galaxy, the balance of power had shifted. Species that had once bowed to the Council now questioned its authority. If the mighty Talun could be defeated so easily, what protection did the Council really offer? What was the point of following leaders who had led them into such a disaster? New voices emerged. Voices that spoke of independence. Voices that spoke of change. And in the middle of it all, at the center of this new order, sat Earth. Every week, new ships arrived at the edge of human space. Not warships. Not threats. Ambassadors. Diplomats. Leaders of species great and small. All seeking the same thing: contact with the humans. Trade with the humans. Alliance with the humans. Ambassador Yoon Hana reviewed each request personally. She sat in her office on Earth, the same woman who had been mocked and humiliated on Nexara Prime, now deciding the fate of civilizations. The Vellani High Council requests permission to send a diplomatic mission, her aide reported. High Arbiter Veth wishes to meet with you personally. Hana looked up from her work. Veth, the one who had denied her request, the one who had allowed Kelos to humiliate her, the one who had laughed along with the rest. "Tell them to wait," she said. "We will consider their request in time." Making them wait was not revenge. It was simply a reminder. They had made humanity wait for 60 years. A few more weeks would not hurt them, but eventually, she agreed to meet with Veth. Not because she wanted to, because it was necessary. The galaxy was changing, and Earth needed to be part of that change. Not as a servant, as a leader. Veth arrived on a small diplomatic shuttle, accompanied only by 2 aides. No guards, no weapons. He had been advised that bringing a military escort would be seen as a threat, and the High Arbiter had no desire to learn what happened to threats in human space. Hana met him in a simple conference room. No grand hall, no elevated throne, just a table and 2 chairs. Veth looked older than she remembered. Tired. His silver skin had lost its shine. His 4 arms hung loosely at his sides. When he sat down across from her, she saw something in his eyes that she had never seen before. Fear. "Ambassador Yoon," he said, "thank you for agreeing to meet with me." "High Arbiter." Her voice was neutral, neither warm nor cold. Veth was silent for a moment. Then he asked the question that had been burning in his mind for 3 months. "Why did you hide your strength?" Hana considered the question. She could give him a cold answer, a diplomatic answer, a careful answer designed to reveal nothing. Instead, she told him the truth. "Because we hoped you would see us as partners," she said. "When we first made contact with the galaxy, we faced a choice. We could reveal our capabilities and become a threat, or we could hide them and try to build trust. We chose trust." She leaned forward slightly. "We believed that if we worked alongside you, if we fought in your wars and helped build your economies, you would eventually accept us as equals. We believed that cooperation would earn respect. We believed in the goodness of other species." Her eyes met his. "We were naive. You never saw us as partners. You saw us as tools, as servants, as creatures to be mocked and controlled. 60 years of service, and you repaid us with laughter." Veth said nothing. There was nothing to say. "Now you have your answer." Hana continued. "Respect cannot be earned. It can only be demanded. We demanded it. And now you are here, in our space, asking for our friendship." Veth lowered his head. "I understand. I do not expect you to forgive us. But I hope that we can move forward. The galaxy needs stability. The galaxy needs leadership. Perhaps we can find a way to work together." Hana studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Perhaps. But things will be different now. We will not serve the Council. We will not bow to your authority. Any relationship between our peoples will be built on equality. True equality, not the false equality of the past." "I understand," Veth said. "And I accept." It was a small step, the first of many. In the months that followed, Earth signed new treaties with a dozen species, not the old treaties, designed to exploit and control. New treaties built on mutual respect and mutual benefit. Species that had shown humans kindness in the old days were rewarded with favorable terms. Species that had mocked them received nothing. The message was clear. Memory mattered. Actions had consequences. On the observation deck of the Horizon, Admiral Kang stood watching Earth's blue glow through the viewport. The ship was stationed in high orbit, part of the permanent defense fleet that now protected human space. Dr. Lee Sue joined him. She had been busy in recent months, overseeing the expansion of Earth's technology programs. Voidlight was just the beginning. There were other projects, other secrets, other wonders waiting to be revealed. "The Villani have signed the treaty," she reported. "High Arbiter Veth left an hour ago." The Admiral nodded. "Good. What about the Mora? They are still negotiating. They want better terms. They say the current offer is unfair." Kang smiled faintly. "They will accept eventually. They have no choice." Sue stood beside him, looking out at the stars. "Admiral, do you think they will ever truly respect us? Or will they always fear us?" It was a good question. Kang thought about it carefully before answering. "Fear and respect are not the same thing," he said. Fear can be lost. Respect must be earned every day. We showed them our strength. Now we must show them our character. He turned to face her. We will not become like them. We will not mock the weak. We will not abuse our power. We will be the kind of civilization we always wanted to meet among the stars. That is how we earn respect. That is how we build a future worth having. Sue nodded slowly. I hope you are right. So do I, the Admiral said quietly. So do I. Below them, Earth turned slowly in the darkness. 8 billion humans lived on that small blue world. Farmers and scientists, artists and soldiers, children playing in parks, old people watching the sunset. All of them part of a species that had been mocked, dismissed, and underestimated. All of them part of a species that had refused to accept humiliation, that had risen from contempt to command respect, that had changed the galaxy forever. In the great halls of Nexara Prime, new speeches were being given. Species that had once laughed at humans now spoke of them with careful respect. The name Earth was no longer a joke. It was a warning. And somewhere in the outer rim, Warlord Drek still drifted among unfamiliar stars. He had plenty of time to think. 200 years of time. He thought about the humans often, about the lesson they had taught him, about the mistake he would never make again, if he ever made it home. On Earth, the sun rose over Sol. Another day began. In schools, children learned about the Great Change. In laboratories, scientists worked on new wonders. In homes across the planet, families gathered and talked about the future. It was a good future, a proud future, a future earned through patience, unity, and strength. The humans had been mocked at the Council. They had ended all treaties overnight. And now, they stood among the stars as equals. No one would ever mock them again.